Hello, it's Leanne Peters here. I'm from templeofbalance.com.au, Temple of Balance on Facebook and Temple of Balance on YouTube. And I am here for Wednesday check-in. So this is the second of Wednesday check-ins. If you missed last week's, I talked basically about, just very briefly about checking in and how important it is to do it regularly. So how have you been going with yours? Have you checked in with yourself a few times over this last week or so? And how helpful was that for you? Just like every advice that you get, whether it's coming from me or someone else, it's really important to maybe try it if you are inspired to do that, and then see if it works for you, because we're all such different people. So there are going to be things that work for me and ways that work for me that may not work for you. So see if it works for you. So today I want to talk about checking in with ourselves, and when we notice that we're actually in really low, we could say bad, negative, heavy, spiraling place that's maybe spiraled out of control. So we may have neglected our checking in, we may have let life take over. Maybe we've just gone through something, a big traumatic event of some sort, or had some news that's plummeted our energy. So what happens when we check in with ourselves and we realize we're actually down in the pits, that we realize we're actually in not a good space at all? So what do we do about this? So this is a really important thing about checking in. So I think about checking in as like observing, looking at and giving attention to my current state. So if I observe through checking in, so if I take a deep breath and I do a scan of my body from head to toe, I check in with my mental state, my emotional state, my spiritual state. If I check in and what's revealed to me is dire, then I need to do something about it. So the checking in part, that's the observing, that's the observation of our current state. It's just the same as if we're going through a situation in our life, or we're doing something in our life that suddenly we realize, hey, this is actually really negatively affecting me. Maybe my stress levels are high, maybe there's so much pressure that's been put onto me that I need to actually do something about it. So the checking in is the observing. The checking in, whether it's ourselves or our life situations, this is the observations. So what we're doing is we're collecting information. We're looking for information when we observe. We don't want to look for reasons or excuses or, I see a lot of people giving reasons why I have a sore leg or why I'm feeling tired. We don't need the reasons why. We don't need the backstory in regards to why we feel a certain space right now. We just want to observe it, story-free and reason-free. So what do we observe? We might observe a heaviness on one side, a feeling stressed, feeling emotional, whatever it is that we observe. So checking in is to observe. So when we observe that, hey, we're starting to tip, or in this case, we've dropped right down into the pits, a really low place in our life, it's through our observation, through our checking in, that's giving us information. It's like we're collecting data. We're collecting data, or data if you're in America. We're collecting data and we're using that information to figure out what action we need to take. So the checking in is not the action. The checking in is the observing. What we do with that observing is where we can use this checking in time to our benefit. So if we check in and see that, hey, we're at a really low place, we're exhausted, we're close to breakdown, we're feeling overwhelmed, then through our check-in, instead of adding to that overwhelm and adding to that negativity by being aware that we're actually not in a good place, instead, because we're observing, we can use what we observe to start turning things around. So what I would do if I'm in a low place and I'm close to breakdown and overwhelm and feeling really pressured and stressed by life, I would recognize how I feel and I would then take the steps required to make changes. Often that requires me to change myself. So I have to consider changing my attitude, changing my perspective, changing how much time I might be dedicating to something. Because if it's getting too much for me, I might have to back off. I may have to take a break for a bit. And sometimes that's something that comes out of my observations. If I'm in a really low, negative, downward spiral place, if I'm not just tipping, but I've already reached the bottom, which doesn't really happen much for me now because I check in regularly. So I want to check in when I'm just tipping and get back on track rather than already being down there. But sometimes it happens. So I want to look at what I'm doing with my time that is, or I may require a break, which is what I was going to say. I may need to look ahead into my schedule and go, right, I need to take a week off. I need to take a break from social media. I need to step away from this problem. I need to take a break from this hobby or this thing that I'm dedicating time to that is just really stressing me out right now. So I need to look at the things that are causing the stress or causing the pressure. If it's something that's happened, like a traumatic event, then I would then look at, okay, what do I need to heal around this? What do I need to release around this to help let the burdens go? And quite often when we're already in the lowest, very low parts of our life, sometimes it's the breakdown that leads to breakthrough. And often I've noticed when we admit that we're struggling, when we admit that we're overwhelmed and challenged, that when we admit that to ourselves out loud, it actually starts shifting things too. So let's look at where the pressures are in our life. Let's look at making changes because there's something in our life that needs to change if we're already down at the pits of our life. Now let me pull a healing energy card around this topic. So these are my healing energy cards, and I'm going to pull a card just to give us a little more information or another perspective on checking in with ourselves and doing something about it, especially when we're in the pits, really. So you might not have reached that point yet, but you may notice that you are not in a fantastic place and you want to do something about it. So it really is important to back up what we observe with action. So I would do that immediately. I don't put action off unless I'm not feeling the urge to act yet, but I certainly won't decide that I need to make improvements in my life and not do it immediately, because I feel as humans we do tend to put things off and then they stay put off. So see how you go. Our healing energy card to support this conversation is the Reflections card, card 47. And this is about things coming together. So it's reminding us, especially when we're in the lowest parts of our life, when we're feeling low, no matter what the reason is, some of us may not even have a reason. So it doesn't matter what the reason is or what the story is behind why we might be in a low place. It's really important, we're being reminded by this card, to recognize that things are coming together. Things are working out, and we may not see that yet in our life, but if we can be proactive in making improvements, then we're going to see that things are going to start to come together. And it may be slow to begin with, but the more we notice what's working, the more we're grateful for, the more we're proactive in reducing our stress levels and moving in the direction that aligns with our heart. The more we do that, the more we let ourselves climb out of that hole that we've been in. So practicing gratitude, genuine gratitude for who or what you appreciate, is also a great help or lifeline in getting out of that place. And then when we continue to check in regularly, we can see how we're doing today and really let those emotions and our reactions to things move us through. If we deny how we feel, it's going to create a stagnation. So emotions, feelings want to be in motion. That's why they're called emotions. So let's let the feelings move and let's let our emotions move us through those whole breakdown, difficult parts of our life. So I trust this helps you. Thanks for joining me for Wednesday check-in. How are you doing and how does this information resonate with you at this time. Have you got any tips or anything you would like to share with the viewers here who may be reading the comments? Something that works for you that I may have forgotten to mention or that you would like to share, then please do. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. Please show us some love. Please comment or share if you're inspired to. And if you want to connect more privately, please send us a message through our website. So if you do want to learn more about me and the work that I do at Temple of Balance, please visit my website at templeofbalance.com.au. Thank you so much for connecting, and please consider supporting my work if you resonate with these types of videos so I can continue to do my work full time. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week again for Wednesday check-in.